2018 gave way to one of the most disruptive events of the century. The US, concerned with its growing trade deficit with China, imposed a number of trade barriers to stop the flow of Chinese goods. China retaliated, kicking off an economic conflict between the two superpowers. But, as the old maxim goes, where there is chaos, there is opportunity. While the economic tussle is hurting some, others seek to benefit from this confrontation. How is this trade war reshaping global politics, and why Mexico, of all countries, stands to benefit most from this conflict? Let's find out. In 2018, the world was reeling from a wave of populism. The then US President Donald Trump did something previously thought of as being against the spirit of the liberal international order, an order the US itself built and sustained. He started a trade war against China, against the principle of the free market that the US had long championed. Washington slapped high tariffs and other trade barriers on Chinese goods. He did this to hold the country accountable for what he deemed as unfair practices. These practices included the forced transfer of technology from America to China and intellectual property theft. These were used as justification for the US to punish China economically. China is a strong economic actor, and the US did not want to suspend its dealings with the country. The trade war thus emerged as a simple strategy to attempt to maintain US dominance in international commerce. The administration of President Trump imposed tariffs on various items the US was importing from China. These tariffs were imposed to balance the trade volume between the two countries. Some of these items include solar panels, washing machines, steel, and aluminium. Trump also imposed heavy tariffs on other Chinese goods. With these tariffs in place, the US attempted to supplement imports from China with those from other countries. Canada and Mexico emerged as top exporters to the US. In retaliation to these tariffs, China also imposed the same on the US. The Eastern powerhouse threatened to stop the imports of soybeans from the US. While the trade war was explicitly against China, the US also moved against other countries. Tariffs were imposed on Canadian, South Korean, Indian, and European products as well. The US also threatened to impose tariffs on Mexican products. It urged Mexico to take stronger measures to curb illegal immigration through its borders. However, the tariffs on Mexican products were never imposed. Here begins the new chapter in the bilateral relationship between the US and Mexico. In 2023, Mexico displaced Canada as the top exporter to the US, with a trade volume of $799 billion. A year earlier, Canada had displaced China for the slot. It was a position consistently claimed by China for years. Therefore, the trade war gave Mexico enough space to maneuver and make its move. It also gave the country enough leverage to boost its own industrial efforts, enough to compete with the factory of the world. 2024 is the election year for many countries across the globe. Mexico also held its general elections in June this year, wherein Claudia Sheinbaum emerged as the president-elect of the North American country. Sheinbaum will assume the presidency at a time when the US sees Mexico as a reliable economic partner. The new president can exploit a wide range of possibilities to take her country to new heights. Mexico stands to benefit the most from the ongoing trade war between the US and China. The country is currently witnessing an influx of foreign direct investment, FDI, as more and more industries are investing in Mexico due to its proximity to the US. Since 2020, Mexico's FDI has been on the rise, growing from $29.08 billion to $36.06 billion in 2023. Here, the physical and political proximity of Mexico to the US is the determining factor, guaranteeing the nearshoring future of the country. The US is increasingly importing automobiles and electronics from Mexico, so these sectors are seeing traction. Mexico witnessed record FDI in the automobile sector in 2023, which is a testament to the promising scope of the industry in the country. Moreover, some of the companies investing in Mexico are the same Chinese companies that cannot directly do business with the US, so they route their businesses through Mexico to evade the prying eyes of American watchdogs who want to keep the Chinese at bay. Moreover, previously these Chinese companies had to ship their products from mainland China to the US. However, being based in Mexico allows them to use a shorter route to get their products into America. Another opportunity for Mexico comes from the establishment of newer industries. Electric mobility and the green energy sector have led to the generation of manufacturing jobs in the country. Besides these, there are other possible avenues for exporters. These sectors include transportation infrastructure and equipment, plastics and resins, packing equipment, and safety and security equipment. All of these industries, along with the other possible contenders, can send waves through the Mexican economy. The president-elect is possibly looking forward to working on setting up newer industries in Mexico to enhance trade volume with the US. Mexico's standing as the top exporter to the US also stems from the latter's blessings. The US is promoting a contender in the neighborhood that it can rely on. As the world invests in Mexico, it will allow the country to become a hub of international supply chains, including those of US companies. The only threat to this emanates from organized crime. However, the president-elect is expected to crack down on these cartels, considering it was a manifesto item during the polls. So, when the issues are resolved, the US will have in itself a strong economic partner. This will not only ensure the consistent supply of goods to the US, but also help in achieving its geopolitical objectives. Mexico's standing as an economic partner to the US certainly has international benefits. The status boosts its standing internationally and allows it to have a say in regional and global politics. China's foreign policy is rooted in its economic prowess, and by 2024 the world clearly understands this. Therefore, if Mexico wants to have an international standing of value, it needs to be economically strong. The opportunities Mexico has in 2024 guarantee this outcome if the country exploits them properly. Moreover, once Mexico flexes its muscles on the global stage, it will certainly have more bargaining power, considering that it is economically allied to the US. Challenges confronting Mexico. Mexico is certainly poised to face several challenges in the future. Let's begin with the automotive sector. China is trying to push its EVs into the US through Mexico, but the US wants the country to be a hub of its manufacturing of EVs. This means that both countries are certainly coming head to head with one another in this sector. As of now, the US is only imposing minimal tariffs on the import of Chinese vehicles manufactured in Mexico. However, the North American nation is considering the imposition of 100% tariffs on the same. This move is only meant to curtail the growth of Chinese automobile industries on Mexican soil. Therefore, Mexico needs to play a critical role in this regard. It needs to be open to FDI while avoiding being used by Chinese manufacturers to merely gain access to the US. Mexico needs to play a balanced role where it allows business to take place, but with strict adherence to legislative principles. This would ensure that no nation gets an undue advantage and every stakeholder gets a level playing field in the international market. Other challenges that Mexico faces include issues stemming from border security, workforce development, cost competitiveness, innovation, and sustainability. Any border security issue can create tensions between the US and Mexico. The workforce in Mexico needs to be trained to the latest standards to be able to ensure the quality of products produced in the country. Mexico needs to ensure that its costs are competitive enough with China. China is known for its cheap labor, but so is Mexico. Nevertheless, the country still needs to work in this area to balance wages with quality. In terms of innovation, Mexico currently lacks the research and development budget of China and would depend on the technology brought to the country by companies investing in it. Lastly, Mexico might face challenges of sustainability as it stands vulnerable to climate change and loss of biodiversity. It may also find it difficult to manage its natural resources as it grows into a stronger economic partner for the US. Conclusion. Mexico stands to benefit immensely from this conflict, but only under the right leadership. Caught between the competing interests of two superpowers, must express caution that it doesn't become another proxy in the great game of geopolitics. Do you think Mexico will succeed or fail? Will China find alternative ways to retain its market share? Will the US do what it does best and support a regime change should it think Mexico isn't doing enough to safeguard its interest? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button for more informative content like this.